Hello and welcome back to another screencast on CommandBox. This is Brad Wood, and today I'm going to be walking you through our new commercial module, the CommandBox Service Manager. So unlike most of our other free and open source modules, this is a commercial module, so you'll need to purchase it, but it's priced very competitively, and we think you'll find it very useful. So the Service Manager allows you to take servers that you start and stop normally through CommandBox and wrap them up in a service, either a Windows service or if you're on Linux, a systemd service that will automatically start that server when the computer reboots or restart it if it's gone into a failure status. And to install it, you can purchase it through the Ortus store. And we'll give you access to the private ForgeBox package, and then when you run this install slug while authenticated into ForgeBox and the CLI, you'll be able to install the module. Now, what the module does is it gives you a new namespace of commands from the command line, all nested within server service. The help here shows all the commands you can access, and the names are all fairly self-explanatory. So service create, update, and remove are for creating the service, modifying its settings, or deleting it. Service start, stop, or restart are all obviously starting and stopping and restarting the service. And then we have a status command to get some specific status on the service, and a version command that just outputs the version of the module you're on. So using this is really drop dead simple, just to create a service with the default settings. So if I do service create, this will create a Windows service because that's the operating system I'm on right now. In this directory, I have a Lucy server I've started in the past. It's actually optional that you have a server that you've started here, but I was testing this earlier. The name of my Lucy server is just www, which is named after the folder. So these kind of out-of-the-box behavior is going to give me a service called www. So that's all it takes to create the service. If I come to my Windows services list and refresh it, you can see a little boring looking www service, which has been created here. So I can now interact with this as a normal Windows service. I can go ahead and start it. Now, Windows does start services sort of asynchronously, so you see the status says started automatically. And you'll also notice that I have CommandBox Bullet Train installed, and there's a bullet train integration, so a new car appears whenever I'm sitting in a directory that's affiliated with a server that has a Windows service associated with it. So you can see the service is showing as running, but the server itself is still kind of booting up, so it still says stopped. If we give this a second and draw the line again, you can see that both are running. So we can interact with this either via the Windows service panel, or I can also start and stop the service using the commands. So service stop will be the same thing as stopping the service through Windows. Now, there's a number of items we can configure about our service. You can see these under the configuration tab. You can control the name and description that the service shows up as, username and password it runs under, start type. Do you want it to start automatically with Windows or be on demand? Does it depend on other services? Process priority, CPU affinity. Also very useful is exit action. Do you want it to restart automatically if it dies unexpectedly? How long do you want it to wait before restarting? And then some settings on capturing the standard out and error logs into a log file. So you can set these when you create the service as service create. If we run the help on this command, you can see that there's a parameter for each of those settings, and you can pass them in when you create the service. Or what I prefer to do is to set these into the server.json file. So if I type server set, and these are all prefixed as service dot, so service dot display name, my www service, right? And then I can do service dot description equals CommandBox is cool. Okay, so these go into my server.json file right here, and when I create the service or update it, it'll automatically pull them out of there, which is nice because this makes it very portable. If you share this server.json file with your teammates, they can run the same command on their computers and get the exact same service. So to update it, I can type service update, and that will effectively remove and re-add that service for me. So if I go back and I look in my list of services, what did I call it? Here we go. Now we have my www service, and the description is CommandBox is cool. So you kind of have full control over how this is created and how it looks. So that's what it looks like on Windows. Just to show you briefly, I have a Linux VM running on my machine as well. This is Ubuntu 16.04. And I have CommandBox installed onto Linux, and I also have the CommandBox Service Manager module installed here as well. So the commands are exactly the same between Windows and Linux, even though behind the scenes we're using systemd and its related system control commands to do this. So here I have a server as well called www, and I can run server service create, and that creates a systemd service, and you see CommandBox bullet train also pulls us up as well. So I can start it, server service start. I can start it through the command line, and that basically does the same thing as running system control start www, which is the name of the server name. Almost all the same configurations are supported. The docs mention a few that are Windows only. There we go. My service is running. You'll notice that Linux is not quite as asynchronous as Windows. It actually it waits until the service is fully up before the command comes back. Just a little difference in implementation there. I can also stop the service directly through the operating system if I use system control stop www. Right? I'm running this from inside of CommandBox, but I use that exclamation point, which is the same thing as just running it from bash. There we go. So service behaves just like a normal service. If I want to see the logs, I can use the journal control. Right here I can see the journal logs for my service, so it's integrated just like any other Linux service you would have in systemd. And so we're excited to have support for Windows and Linux both, and it's nice that the command interface that you use to script it is basically the exact same command. So what this means is if you were sharing this between a team of developers, some of them developing on Linux, some on Windows, you could have the same basic service configuration in your server.json file, and when they run server service create, they all get the appropriate service for their operating system. Okay, that's basically it. Go ahead and check out these docs and read through the rest of the configuration options, and if you have any questions, let us know. Have a good one, guys.